She mocked a person with a disability, refusing to apologize and brushing off her critics. That is, until Kash Patel quietly revealed everything she didn't want the public to know. It wasn't the first time a politician had made a careless remark, but this one hit differently. The video was only 20 seconds long. Jasmine Crockett, a first-term Democratic representative from Texas, stood behind a microphone at a human rights campaign fundraiser in Fort Worth. Her tone was sharp as she railed against Governor Greg Abbott's stance on LGBTQ rights. With a smirk, she called him Governor Hotwheels and said he wanted to trample everyone's freedoms. The crowd gave a nervous chuckle, some clapping, but by the time the clip spread across Twitter, the initial laughter had turned into outrage. Crockett, known for her fiery speeches and bold one-liners, had made waves before, but mocking a man in a wheelchair crossed a line. The backlash was swift, hashtags trended, news anchors raised eyebrows. Within hours, journalists were reaching out to advocacy groups, political strategists, and even Abbott's office. Soon, the outrage became bipartisan. On The View, co-host Ana Navarro expressed her disapproval. "I don't care who you're talking about," she said. "Mocking a disability is never okay." In Dallas, a conservative veteran, Bruce Halterman, who lost both legs in Iraq, posted a video from his wheelchair calling Crockett out by name. "We can disagree on policy," he said, "but attacking someone's body is not about ideas, it's just cruelty." His raw and emotional video went viral, garnering over 3 million views in just one day. Still, Crockett refused to apologize. Into a follow-up interview, she doubled down. "I'm not mocking anyone's wheelchair," she argued. "I'm talking about how he's bulldozing all our freedoms. You're all too sensitive." Those 4 words, "you're all too sensitive," would be repeated endlessly over the next few days. But while the public debate raged on, another, quieter response was taking shape behind the scenes. In a small studio in Fairfax, Virginia, Kash Patel, a strategist with a legal background and a reputation for precision, sat watching Crockett's clips. Calm and composed, Patel wasn't reacting emotionally, he was observing. The Hotwheels comment wasn't just a slip-up to him, it was part of a pattern. Rash words, zero accountability, escalating rhetoric. He grabbed his notebook, took a deep breath, and began writing. While the media circus continued, Patel was quietly building a case. He'd been following Crockett's career and saw this incident as just another piece of a larger puzzle. He wasn't in a rush. Patience was his advantage. Meanwhile, Crockett's comments didn't die down. The Hotwheels video kept making waves, and just days later, another comment surfaced. During a recent podcast appearance, Crockett had joked that Senator Ted Cruz needed to be knocked out for disagreeing with her. A week earlier, she'd stirred controversy by calling for Elon Musk to be taken down after he criticized a bill she co-sponsored. Her defenders dismissed these as mere figures of speech, but Patel, among others, disagreed. At Crockett's Texas office, things were growing tense. Staffers were working overtime to manage the fallout. One aide, a speechwriter, named Leon Haskins, turned to his colleague Mia Granger, who handled press relations. "She doesn't get it," Mia said, shaking her head. "She thinks this is just noise from the culture wars." Leon replied, "No, this is different." It hit a nerve. Even in Texas, Democratic colleagues were distancing themselves from Crockett. Most of them avoided direct answers when asked about the controversy. Only a few issued carefully worded statements. No one was rushing to her defense this time. But while the media continued its frenzy, Patel worked tirelessly in the background assembling evidence. He dug up old clips and interviews, gathering facts, timelines, and archived moments when Crockett had made similarly aggressive remarks. One clip, in particular, was especially damning, a school board hearing where Crockett had insulted a parent, accusing them of being paid to spread hate. Patel wasn't rushing. He knew how the game worked. While others focused on speed and sensationalism, he was methodically building his case, brick by brick. Then, late on a Friday, everything changed. Crockett appeared on a late-night talk show hosted by comedian Tyrell Jennings. The audience was friendly, But halfway through the segment, Tyrell turned serious. "Congresswoman," he said, "do you regret calling the governor Hotwheels? Some people in the disabled community didn't appreciate it." Crockett smiled. "If they knew what he was doing to people in this state, they'd call him worse." The audience went quiet. Tyrell blinked, his face unsure. The silence in the room was deafening. The clip spread quickly. That final moment, her unwavering refusal to show any empathy, was the tipping point. It wasn't just about what she said, but how she said it. Cold, proud, and detached. Not a misstep, but a pattern. While public support for Crockett quietly thinned, Kash Patel was about to release something that would take the conversation to a whole new level. The video wasn't flashy. No dramatic music or quick edits, just Patel seated calmly in a plain chair, a legal pad in front of him, his gaze sharp. "Let's talk about Representative Jasmine Crockett," he began, voice steady. "This isn't about just one offensive comment. It's about a pattern of behavior, and I think the American people deserve to see the full picture." The video, titled Kash Patel, "Enough is Enough," dropped quietly on a Tuesday at noon. Within hours, it had over 400,000 views. By nightfall, it had crossed $2.1 million. Patel wasn't shouting. He wasn't mocking. Instead, he methodically walked viewers through a series of incidents, each more alarming than the last. The Hotwheels comment, the Ted Cruz remark, the Elon Musk rant. The college panel where she accused a student of representing fascism just for asking about budget transparency. With each clip, Patel paused, then asked, "Does that sound like a public servant? Or does it sound like someone intoxicated by attention?" He didn't just critique. He explained. Slowly, clearly. He talked about tone, responsibility, and the difference between passion and recklessness. Then, he flipped the focus to the bigger picture. You can't govern if you're constantly dividing. You can't protect people's rights if you're obsessed with tearing down anyone who disagrees with you. That's not public service. That's ego. People listened, not because of who Patel was, but because of how he said it. He wasn't trying to go viral. He was trying to be heard. In one powerful section, Patel addressed the veterans directly. "You know what courage looks like," he said. "You've seen it up close. Mocking a man's wheelchair because you disagree with his policies isn't courage, it's cowardice." The line hit hard. Veteran groups began sharing the video. Even some liberals who had dismissed Patel before started tweeting that he wasn't wrong. Across the country, a retired teacher named Marla Stone watched the video on her phone. She had donated to Crockett's campaign, even voted for her. But now she sat staring at the screen with a knot in her stomach. "I didn't sign up for this," she whispered. "I thought she was sharp. I didn't think she was mean." At the end of the 19-minute video, Patel didn't call for Crockett's resignation. He didn't say her name with venom. He simply looked into the camera and said, "We need better from all sides. We need leaders, not performers." That final line stuck with people. Simple, unpolished. By the next morning, several news outlets had picked up Patel's video. Headlines read, "Kash Patel holds a mirror to Crockett's record, and it's damning. No attacks, just receipts." Patel's quiet takedown gets applause across aisles. Some Democrats, who had been silent before, now started privately calling reporters. "We've had concerns for a while," they said off the record, but Crockett wasn't backing down, and her refusal to shift was about to cost her more than just headlines. By Thursday, the cracks were starting to show. Inside a closed-door meeting in the Capitol, a group of Democratic strategists huddled around a long oak table. Phones buzzed, laptops opened. Some of them scrolled through Patel's video, shaking their heads. Gloria Mencken, a seasoned political consultant, broke the silence. "We've got a problem," she said, "and it's not just the comment, it's her pride. She won't let this go." Everyone in the room knew what she meant. Crockett had refused every chance to clarify, soften, or even apologize. She was still tweeting, still defending herself, still mocking Abbott, still doubling down as though this were some kind of game, and Patel's video wasn't fading. It was only gaining steam. Lane Corbin, Crockett's campaign manager, was doing his best to hold things together, but the pressure was mounting. Donors were pulling out one after another. A prominent backer from Plano had already backed out, citing the wheelchair comment as something he simply couldn't defend, especially in front of his family at Sunday dinner. Lane sat across from Crockett. In her campaign office, his face a picture of stress. "We can't just ignore this. We need to address it directly, not just fire back at Patel," he urged. Crockett remained unfazed. "He's the one making it about himself. I'm not giving him the satisfaction of a win." Lane let out a frustrated sigh. "It's not about him anymore. It's about how you're coming across. People aren't upset just because of what you said. They're upset because you don't seem to care that you said it." Silence fell between them. Crockett turned, her attention to her computer. Then let them be mad. That defiant moment would cost her more than she could imagine. Over the next 2 days, those cracks in her public image grew into deep fractures. A local newspaper in Texas ran a scathing editorial on the front page titled, "The Arrogance of Power: Why Crockett's Words Matter." A centrist Democratic senator, when questioned about the controversy, issued a diplomatic response about choosing words wisely, a response that barely counted as a defense. Then, at a town hall in Lubbock, the tension reached a new level. A woman in her 60s asked, "If she can say something that cruel and not even blink, what else is she willing to ignore?" The room fell silent. It wasn't just Crockett's words anymore. It was her character that was being questioned. Meanwhile, Patel wasn't engaging in the media circus. He had said his piece, then quietly retreated to his usual work. When reporters asked about the public reaction, he simply responded, "It's not about going viral. It's about accountability." His words had more impact than the typical press conference rhetoric. He didn't mock or attack Crockett. Instead, his calm demeanor made his point even stronger. But within Crockett's circle, the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. The energy that once buzzed with confidence had vanished, replaced by a tense silence. Staffers worked quietly, avoiding eye contact, knowing that something had gone terribly wrong. In a closed meeting behind the frosted glass of the conference room, Crockett sat with her core team. Lane Corbin, Mia from the press team, Leon the speechwriter, Roxy, a junior aide, and Gerald Spence, an experienced political strategist who'd flown in from Austin. The tension in the room was palpable. Gerald spoke first, cutting straight to the point. "We need to face facts. This isn't going away, and if you keep doubling down, you're risking your seat next year." Crockett leaned back, her arms crossed. "So you're telling me I should apologize for speaking the truth?" Gerald's brow furrowed. "No, I'm saying there's a difference between speaking truth and burning bridges while doing it." Roxy, young and loyal, tried to offer some comfort. "But people love her for being bold." Mia spoke up, her voice flat. "They did. But now they're just tired. Even the people who like the fire are starting to wonder if it's just fire with no substance." The room went quiet as Leon slid a folder across the table. "This is the coverage over the past 36 hours. Patel's video is up to 4 million views and he hasn't said a word since." "That silence is strategic," Crockett muttered, flipping open the folder. Headlines stared back at her. "Jasmine Crockett's joke isn't funny anymore. Patel's case is surgical. What happened to Jasmine Crockett?" She closed the folder. "I'm not groveling to him." Lane responded cautiously. "No one's asking you to grovel, but maybe a real heartfelt statement. Not a tweet or a joke. Just honesty." Crockett looked around the room. "You think I've gone too far?" No one answered. Immediately. Then Mia spoke, her voice tinged with frustration. "I think you forgot that words don't just make you powerful. Sometimes they make you noisy." The sting of her words landed. Crockett didn't respond. Instead, she stared out the window at the street below. People were walking by, their umbrellas up against the drizzle, lost in their own world. Probably, not thinking about her at all. That realization bothered her more than the headlines. As she walked out of the room, the staff glanced up. Without a word, Crockett shut herself into her office, leaving the team behind, heavy with unspoken concern. Gerald sighed deeply. If she doesn't shift course soon, Patel's going to have the last word, and it's going to be her legacy, not his. Leon looked up from his laptop. She still doesn't get it. It's not the joke, it's the pride. But pride wasn't Crockett's only problem. Her next public appearance would only worsen matters. At Southern Methodist University. In Dallas, the auditorium was nearly full. The event wasn't a rally, but rather a moderated town hall as part of her statewide listening tour. The media, drawn by the recent controversy, had shown up in full force. Cameras lined the back of the room, and journalists were ready to record her every word, waiting to see if she would finally address the growing backlash. Crockett walked, on stage, dressed in navy blue, her face set in a hard expression. Her team had advised a short, direct statement to open the event, but Crockett had scrapped that idea. She wanted to speak off script. The moderator, Ronita Bell, began with some easy questions, but as they neared the 15-minute mark, she shifted gears. "There's something we need to address," Ronita said, her tone gentle. "The comments you made last week about Governor Abbott, the reaction, and the Patel video. I think it's time for you to address it directly. Do you regret using that phrase?" Crockett inhaled deeply, glancing out at the crowd. Phones were raised, and eyes were locked on her. "I regret," she said slowly, "that people are more outraged by words than by policies that ruin lives." There was a long pause before she added, "Let me be clear. I don't care what Governor Greg Abbott uses. I care about the bills he signs and the harm they cause. If people are offended by that, maybe they should be more offended by what he's actually doing." A few scattered claps followed, but the silence in the room was deafening. Ronita leaned in. "Just to clarify, that's not an apology. I don't apologize for calling out oppression," Crockett said, her tone defiant. "Even if it makes people uncomfortable. That clip would go viral, not because of its fiery tone, but because it felt disconnected, misjudged. The wrong tone at the wrong time." Backstage, Lane rubbed his temples. She just handed Patel another headline. The clip spread quickly. But something had changed. Even her usual allies, progressive outlets, and social justice influencers started to label her as arrogant, reckless, and self-absorbed. One activist tweeted, "I believe in boldness, but this isn't bold, it's just blind." Meanwhile, Kash Patel remained silent. No new response, no follow-up video. He stayed quiet, and that silence spoke volumes. His restraint, his refusal to engage further, made him appear more composed, while Crockett appeared to be spiraling. In a morning talk show segment in Tucson, a roundtable of Black and Latino veterans weighed in. One, a retired Navy officer named Darrell Whitlock, said it bluntly, "You can't lead people if you can't lead yourself." Another added, "You can be right on an issue and still be wrong in how you treat others." By the end of the week, the question had shifted from whether Crockett had made a mistake to whether she could recover from it. But before she could even think about redemption, someone else entered the fray, and what they revealed took the scandal in a new direction. Sunday, morning brought an unexpected twist. Elijah Brennan, a former campaign staffer from Crockett's early days in politics, stepped forward. He wasn't a political rival or a pundit, just a quiet, behind-the-scenes guy who had once believed in her. In a 6-minute video posted on Facebook, Brennan shared his disillusionment. "I used to believe in Jasmine," he said, speaking plainly. "But somewhere along the way it stopped being about the truth and started being about her." His video went viral, not because it was sensational, but because it felt real. One comment read, "This guy just said what we've all been thinking," without hate, just disappointment. Even Crockett's supporters began pulling back. Some stopped returning her calls, while others began issuing public statements that felt more like distancing than defense. And as the storm continued, Kash Patel remained quiet. His video, now with nearly 6 million views, continued to resonate. When a reporter asked him for a comment at an event in Clearwater, Florida, he simply said, "People see the truth now. No need for me to say more." His restraint, his focus made the story clearer than ever. This wasn't about a single comment. It was about accountability. It was about how you respond when you've been called out. Do you double down, lash out, or do you listen and learn? The way Patel handled the situation, calmly, thoughtfully, was a stark contrast to Crockett's defensive, prideful response. In the end, Crockett's refusal to listen and reflect became the story. Patel's measured, factual approach showed that truth didn't need a megaphone. It just needed clarity.